Hey there. Okay, we've talked about carb cravings yesterday. So today I wanted to talk about, now that you know what causes the carb cravings, you're in a great position to actually begin to control them. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. And I have 6 ways that I will suggest. You can use one or more than one. It's totally up to you. But these are 6 strategies that I find super helpful in keeping those carb cravings at bay and addressing really what's going on with those in the first place. The first one, I'm just going to go ahead and strip off the Band-Aid and suggest right now that you try a low carb or even ketogenic diet. Now, ketogenic diet is not the answer for everyone, actually, but for many, a clean keto, and that's a whole other thing I might talk about later, is a really powerful tool for improving not only your dietary choices, but also seeing improved health outcomes. It's true. It has literally been central to my own health transformations and issues, and a lot of people that I have coached. When we cut back down to really being a low carb consumer every day. The keto diet gets a lot of flack. There's a lot of people doing it wrong. So I'm not going to go into details on that right now, but it does. One of the benefits of it is that it really has a potential to shift your metabolism pretty substantially, actually. And by consuming fewer of those simple carbohydrates in what we call a hypocaloric state, that just means when your body is lower in calories, then your body increases its own natural access to, get this, stored body fat. Because yes, your body does need fats. It does need energy, and it finds that when you begin to kind of switch off that mechanism of being this carb slash sugar burner, which is what happens when we have a lot of high carbs intake, versus a low carb intake, you are switching your energy source. Okay, you're going back into burning your fat stores as energy sources. And so what this does is this causes less of that roller coaster in your blood sugar and more consistent blood glucose overall throughout the day, which is, of course, a huge win for overall health. It also helps reduce the levels of ghrelin. Remember, we talked about that yesterday. That was your hunger hormone. It reduces this neuropeptide Y, which is kind of what we have that stimulates appetite in your brain. It reduces that also. It helps increase your fullness promoting hormones. Guess what that was? Yes, you know it, the leptin. We talked about that yesterday. So that appetite suppression is a big part of it. That's probably responsible for some of the weight loss that people achieve on keto, because you have fewer cravings, because you have fewer carbs, you have less overeating, you have less weight gain, all super simple just by really reducing your carb intake in general. So that's number one. Number two, avoid the refined carbs. Those are those simple carbs. It's the simple sugars. So if you really focus on whole foods, and I know I've talked about that and I post about that a lot too, whole foods focused, that is going to be a healthier choice, because remember, you are getting carbohydrates from your vegetables and your fruits. All right. They're actually carbohydrates that work really, really well, especially if you're in a kind of metabolically healthy state. So once you get the blood sugar roller coaster managed, then you can bring in those carbohydrates in whole foods, not in the refined carbs, the simple carbs. So however you eat, really, you want to really avoid the refined sugars. And that means saying no to things like soda and crackers and sauces and dressings and cookies and ice cream and all packaged foods for the most part, because all of those foods are really are refined, and they are reinforcing that preference for the sweets, for those hyper palatable foods that I talked about yesterday. So they are technically, by consuming them, they are wiring your brain to crave more of them. And we don't want that. All right. So you want to go low carb, you want to go whole food, you want to really replace the junky, crappy carbs with more nutrient dense proteins and fats and vegetables and fruits. Okay, your body adjusts to this new way of living, which is kind of crazy because it's really not a new way. It is like the original way. That is the traditional way our body is designed to be supported. And you will experience a marked decrease in carb cravings, which is definitely a win overall. Your body just shuts it off. It doesn't even see it as a need anymore. Tip number 3 is to go back to one of my earlier videos, and that is working on getting enough protein. Protein is power, okay? And electrolytes. That's your mineral balance. That's super important also for pretty much every cellular activity that has to go on in your cells. So let's talk about that. Protein, quick recap, actually takes longer to digest than carbohydrates or fats. So that's preferable because it makes you feel full longer. Okay, it also makes your body work a little bit harder, which is also a good thing. Diets higher in protein are going to help you. Where was I going with that? Promote weight loss, first of all, that increased satiety, right? It kind of talks about it makes you feel full longer, so you are more satisfied. That's what satiety is, and that leads to less cravings and less snacking, of course. Okay. If you no longer have those craving cues, then you won't necessarily need to support them. Okay, so that's kind of a win-win too. The other thing that happens is with your electrolytes, and you want to make sure that you have enough electrolytes because they play a real crucial role in maintaining a balance of fluids and minerals in the body, which also, you guessed it, influences hunger. Okay, so when you are more attentive to your electrolytes, and what we have found that sodium, potassium, magnesium, several of those micronutrients are kind of in that electrolyte category. When you have enough of those, you will see a reduction in cravings and experience a suppression of appetite. Ha! Okay, so if you are low in those electrolytes, what we see is an increased feeling of hunger and cravings for salty foods and fatty foods, for example. But if you just work on maintaining a good balance in those electrolytes, you will see a reduction in all of that, and that will also help. All right. Tip number 4, your sleep. I know, broken record here, right? I want you to sleep well, because when you don't sleep well and sleep enough, your ghrelin levels rise. Remember ghrelin, think about it as growling. Think about that as your hunger hormone. You don't want your hunger hormone to be elevated, but poor sleep actually drives that hormone up, creates cravings again, and while physical, it's also kind of psychological, right? Impulse control plummets when you don't have enough quality sleep. So if you're sleep deprived, it is harder to resist those cravings. It is harder to walk by that box of donuts in the workroom, okay? Don't let sleep or lack of quality sleep torpedo your diet, okay? Guard that sleep time every night, 8 to 10 hours. It sounds like a ridiculously high amount, but it is not. That is exactly what your body needs. I want you to guard it and protect it because that sleep time is huge. And it will also have a great positive impact on any cravings that you're experiencing once you get your sleep quality and volume dialed in every single night. Number 5, this is kind of a no-brainer, but I wanted to say it anyway. Remove the temptations. Like, the only way to get rid of temptation, this is Oscar Wilde, says the only way to get rid of temptation is to yield to it. That's basically what that means, is if it's in the house, you're going to eat it. So if you have those processed foods, the refined foods, the sugary foods, whatever, if they're in your house, you're going to eat them. And if you yield to those cravings and eat those foods, guess what? Just like we talked about yesterday, the cravings come back stronger. We don't want that. So attack the problem at its source, get rid of it. Go through your kitchen, chuck out any of those problem foods, anything with refined sugar. I generally recommend anything that comes in a bag, a box, or a drive-through window. Of course, those are all considered refined foods, all full of sugars. If you don't have it in the house, you won't eat it. Okay. If you can't see it, you won't crave it. There's actually a real connection to that. So you want to make sure that you can remove as many of those temptations as possible. And then the other thing that I'm going to just tap on here, just as a point, what I hear a lot is I have kid foods at home, and those are the ones that I have a hard time resisting, and I snack on them or I grab them or whatever. And you know what? Those kid foods are usually those refined foods. Again, highly palatable, high in sugar, high in salt, high in fat, okay, all the super yummies. And for whatever reason, we think it's okay for our kids to eat it too. Newsflash, it's not. Okay? So nobody in your house needs those foods. That's just a little tough love coming from me to you. Okay? Just get rid of it. Nobody needs them. Nobody is benefiting from them. Nobody needs that blood sugar roller coaster and sugar dysfunction, glucose dysfunction happening in their body ever. Doesn't matter if you're 8 years old or 80 years old or anywhere in between. Just get rid of the food. Don't have it in the house. And the sixth one, this is kind of a no-brainer too, but I want you to just know that it's going to take a little bit of time to shift. And so when it takes a little bit of time to shift and make those cravings kind of take a back seat, you have to ride it out. Food cravings are not subtle. I know. They demand your attention. They beg to be satisfied. And while it seems like they're never going to go away, this is simply not the case. You have to trust the process. You have to push through that little uncomfortable bit, and then you'll get over to the other side, okay? Everything that kind of arises also passes. Just remember that. Hunger is the exception. Cravings are not the exception, excuse me, and cravings aren't either. It's going to follow a natural ebb and flow. It's going to peak. It's going to seem miserable, but then it's going to dissipate and level out. So push through, see it through, just ride it out, because at some point your body's going to make that shift again, and it's going to the cravings are going to go away because your body doesn't really need it. Remember, it's all a lot about brain chemistry and making sure that your hunger hormone is stabilized, but it does take a little bit of time. So hang in there. All right. So my top 6, how to manage those carb cravings. Consider eating low carb or keto even. Low carb diets improve your hunger hormone levels, balance them out, and protein is more satiating than carbs. Your body is happier. It's definitely healthier. Second, skip the sugar. Avoid the refined carbs to help keep your blood sugar levels stable throughout the day. Number 3, get enough sleep, because poor sleep actually increases your appetite and reduces your self-control. Number 4, control your food environment. That means don't have it in the house. Having cupcakes close by will not help your cause, I promise. So empty out your pantry, empty out the kitchen, have a little family meeting. You don't need it, neither do the kids. And did I miss one? Last one, wait it out, okay? Cravings, they kind of ebb and flow. So make sure that you just kind of push through that little difficult couple of days. And I promise it'll get better on the other side. I think I might have missed one. But anyway, you can listen to this again just in case. Have a great afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Tune back in tomorrow, and do keep a lookout, because we are going to be opening up that free community for support for everyone, and it's going to include a challenge. I'm going to start with a 21-day challenge for anyone who wants a little bit of an assist working through some of the things that we're talking about in these videos the last several days. All right, you guys have a great day. See you tomorrow.